Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon from a very cold and snowy Scotland. I hope wherever you are in Britain or in Asia, Pakistan, hopefully, some friends calling in, that the weather is better with you than it is here. Welcome to this event from the Asia Scotland Institute, which is a joint one organised in collaboration with the British Pakistan Foundation and the ZVM Rangoonwala Foundation. We have a fascinating subject today, perhaps lesser known outside of the South Asian community, but hopefully better known after today. Our focus is a presentation and discussion of South Asian art through the eyes of Wahab Jaffer. Our presenter is Nour Aslam, who has been working as the artistic director for the ZVM Rangoonwala Foundation since 2018. Whilst working at the foundation in 2019, Nour completed the Curating Contemporary Art MA from the Royal College of Art, so which must have been tough, I'm sure, working and studying at the same time. It's never easy. And previously, she was working in Lahore for 2 years as director of programs for the Lahore Biennale Foundation. And before that, her career goes back a little further. She was head of sales for the South Asian art department at the Bonhams Auction House, also specializing in Middle Eastern art. So before we go into the presentation and the handover, I'd just like to remind everyone of the ground rules for today. Please could you mute your microphones? Please disable your camera. If someone has left it open inadvertently, my colleague will mute it for you, but it does help if you can please just go on to mute earlier. Please also, if you have questions, could you raise them in the Zoom chat function? So you can send that either privately to me or publicly to the entire group if you wish to do so. And then once we finish the presentation, we'll get through as many of the questions as possible. We would let you speak if you wish to. If you wish to ask your question yourself, you're very welcome to do so. If you wish me to ask it, or you wish it just to be put through the Zoom chat, please just say so and we'll ask on your behalf. So please could I hand over for introduction to Mr. Asif Rangoonwala, who I think, as you probably know, many of you from the Pakistan community in Britain, a very successful business entrepreneur, a very diverse array of interests, he claims, spanning a very wide range of sectors, including food, property and sport. And I think probably most importantly to him, his philanthropic activities through the Rangoonwala Foundation, which was established by his late father. So Asif, may I hand over to you for a few words, please?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. And thank you, Martin, for the introduction to myself and partially to BPF, but let me expand a little bit. First of all, I'd like to thank the Asia Scotland Institute for actually making it possible for the BPF to do this presentation on arts. As far as the BPF is concerned, BPF is a platform for British Pakistanis in the UK. I believe that there is a very, very strong requirement for a social and cultural platform for British Pakistanis who, over the last 70 years, have been coming to the UK, living in the UK. Children have grown up in the UK, or children have actually been born in the UK. And now it is about time that we have a platform which is what the British Pakistan Foundation is and has been provided by the trustees and the directors who are today running it, and I chair the foundation. Once again, I would like to thank Roddy and Martin for making it possible for us to have this presentation of the father figure by Nour Aslam. Nour Aslam works for the Rangoonwala Foundation, and she has put together this show, curated it, and we actually had a very, very good first showing at the Asia Society in London. And I am very happy that Nour is now going to be able to share the works as well as some of the history behind how these works came about. Thank you once again. I look forward to being with you, and if there are any questions, I shall be available. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for joining this discussion. I'm going to start off with talking about the ZVM Rangoonwala Foundation for a little bit. It began in 1976 in the UK, and its mission is to enable and empower communities engaging in social development initiatives in the UK and in Pakistan and further South Asia. One of the sections in this is regarding to the arts and culture, and the ZVM Rangoonwala Foundation has been very prolific over the past couple of years in regards to the donations and support that they've given to several institutions around the world that are focusing on South Asia and building sustainability models throughout the region and globally as well. I'm going to start off by sharing the screen, and I will be talking about the presentation. So Father Figure is an exhibition that I curated back in October 2019 at Asia Society London. It further traveled to Pakistan VM Art Gallery in Karachi between the months of January and February. The exhibition looks at the collection that prolific collector, patron, and businessman and artist Wahab Jaffer built over the span of 50 years. This was a collection that was gifted to the ZVM Rangoonwala Foundation in regards to furthering education in the arts in South Asia and Pakistan further. So I would like to start off by showing a video of Wahab speaking about his collection and his patronage.
Each individual has a different way of loving art. I like colors in art. Colors forms the big factor in the culture of Karachi and also of art in Pakistan. My name is Wahab Jaffer. I live in Toronto. My fascination with the art started long time ago when I was very young. I started late, but late is better to be late than never. It was a fantastic 25 years, how I grew up into the art world of Pakistan. I started collecting art in 1969 for my home which was being built. One day I was in Bori Bazaar in Karachi. There I met my friend who said, "Come, I'll show you a gallery which has opened. Indus Gallery has just opened up." So he took me there. He was the person who introduced me to Ali Imam. Ali Imam is the person who got me into art, really, in a serious way. He taught me how to paint, and he was instrumental in most of my collection, I would say. I went to him one day, asked him that since you're holding classes here in your gallery, I would like to join them. First he declined, he said no. So I said, I have nothing to do, so I'm interested in the arts. As you know, I'm buying paintings. I would like to learn how to paint. Eventually he succumbed, and then I joined them. For 6 months I was there, learning how to paint. Abstract art I love. It's very difficult to do. It's very challenging. You're having a canvas, you have something in mind, but you don't know how it's going to end. Why I love abstract art? Because it's just a freedom there. Freedom of your expressing yourself in any way you want. If you can paint like a child, you've made it. Picasso once said that it's a very difficult thing to know when you've really finished your work. So it is better that when you have done something and you like it, you just take it off the canvas and keep it aside. And then after a few days go back to it and see if it needs anything more to be done, or you want to just sign it and finish it off. So for instance, I would love to have little small dots here somewhere, but I don't want to touch it because I want to look at it for a few more days, and I think it is complete. So this is Jamil Naksh, who passed away, I think, 6 weeks ago or 2 months ago. This is Ahmed Parvez, small on the smaller scale. A year before he passed away. And this is Khalid Iqbal, the great Pakistani landscape painter. Very nice artist. He died, he passed away 3 years ago. So all my great friends have gone. Perhaps I was lucky to see those things, and I still reflect back, and when I get back into time, it gives me more urge to paint, because I've seen them painting and I've seen the colors. So that's the reason I'm painting even now. And I advise the younger generation to do the same. My advice to young collectors is, start collecting, yes, but collect what you would like to live with. Collect good art, be patient, don't be in a hurry to fill up the walls in your house. One has to pick and choose your art, your artist. You have to like painting itself, because you're going to live with it. And I go back into time, and that gives me the impetus to paint and paint and paint. So that's how I carry on. That's how I feel better.
Right, so I'm just going to start off by talking a little bit about the exhibition further. As I had mentioned, Wahab Jaffer has been collecting and continues to collect and paint over the past 50 years. Many of the artists in his collection that he had just mentioned became very good friends of his, but initially they were emerging artists at the time. And through his love of the arts and through his friendships grew an artist out of him, and he decided to start painting. And that's when he really began his whole journey going forward. So he calls himself an artist, an art collector, and then a businessman, whereas chronologically it actually happens the other way around. As you can see, this is him with all of his friends. So you've got Bashir Mirza, Wahab Jaffer, Francis Newton Souza, who is a prolific Indian artist and who also is part of permanent collections all around the world and was recently shown at the Tate Britain in an exhibition, How to Be Human. And then next to that, you have Ali Imam and Ismail Gulji, and it was really like a friends club that they had together. So through this, nowadays, I think people think of art as a luxury investment, whereas actually for Wahab, it was more so about connecting with people and getting to know more about what their histories were and what they were like. And so that's how he really started getting into this entire business. He started collecting works in 1969 from Bori Bazaar, which is a small bazaar based in Karachi, but then he was introduced to Ali Imam. Ali Imam happened to be a painter himself, but also owned the gallery, Indus Gallery, one of the oldest galleries in Karachi. And eventually, first off, it started off as studio classes. And so Wahab insisted that he must take classes there, but Ali Imam didn't want him to. Eventually, after 6 months, he convinced him, Wahab, to let him take classes in his studio. And Ali Imam was very impressed that this man wanted to do these courses and, take part in what was something that was probably unusual to other people who were collecting. So in the exhibition that took place at Asia House, the first painting that was displayed was the one that is done by Wahab Jaffer in 1973, and that was one of the first artworks he ever created. It was, of course, part of Ali Imam's studio, and Ali Imam said he was very impressed with the way Wahab could use colors and abstraction, and from there, he became very good friends with another artist that Ali Imam introduced him to, named Ahmed Parvez. Now, as you can see next to the two paintings in contrast to each other, there are a lot of similarities over there. Wahab and Ahmed Parvez had a really beautiful relationship where Wahab really found his skills from Ahmed Parvez, and Ahmed Parvez kind of depended on Wahab in regards to staying at his home, and just a flourishing kind of relationship began from there. There's a wonderful book written by Akbar Naqvi called Image and Identity, which is painting and sculpture from 1947 to 1997 in Pakistan, where he says, a few years before Parvez's death, Wahab Jaffer gave him a roof over his head and hospitality in his home. He had a studio to himself and plenty of color and canvas to paint. To the master with him was an exciting experience. He painted some of the most amazing paintings under Wahab Jaffer's roof, his last port of call. So as you can see, it was more of a friendship than it was a transactional relationship, which we may or may not see nowadays with the rise of galleries and auction houses and other institutions that are coming around. Next was his relationship with Bashir Mirza. Bashir Mirza, again, is a very famous artist that has been based in Pakistan. Unfortunately, he passed in 2000. Jaffer was visiting Mirza in his studio one day, and Mirza was painting this particular artwork. And at the time, Wahab was studying it and seeing how he was doing the strokes. And so Mirza invited Wahab to actually paint alongside with him. And when I was speaking to Wahab about this creation, he said it was so exciting for him to be able to paint with someone he admired and truly looked up to. And so, as you can see on the side, there's a signature by Bashir Mirza, and then there's Wahab Jaffer on the bottom as well. He's said that the dark strokes were created by Mirza, and then later on the lighter strokes came in from Wahab. The next artist is Murtaza Bashir, who originally his name was Murtaza Bashir, but due to the conflict between Pakistan and Bangladesh, he changed it to Murtaza Bashir to show his Bengali roots. Now, his show was actually originally in Karachi at Indus Gallery. Ali Imam had met him through an exhibition that took place at Woodstock Gallery back in, I believe it was 1967. And through that time, Bashir and Imam began to have this wonderful relationship, and so he ended up exhibiting in Karachi as well. This particular series, which is called the Wall series, looks at the old wall cities of Dhaka, Bangladesh, especially looking at the divide between the prison that was in Bangladesh alongside the cityscape that was there. So it really, he was trying to talk about the barriers between human politics and the misunderstandings that we have. So Wahab, of course, picked up this artwork, and then a few years later, Murtaza Bashir was visiting Karachi and ended up seeing Wahab and seeing his work, and he was very pleased with that, as you can see in the corner photo over there. Francis Newton Souza, as Ed had mentioned before, became a very good friend of Wahab Jaffer's as well. He frequently visited Pakistan, and it was actually thanks to Wahab Jaffer that he was able to make so many visits. It was a man named Victor Anand, who was a writer based in London and a friend of John Berger's, that introduced Jaffer to Souza. And from there, Souza ended up coming and staying with Jaffer every time he was coming to Pakistan in Karachi. As you can remember from one of the initial slides that I had shown, there's a photo of Souza having one of his first exhibitions in Karachi, which displayed this actual painting. So as Souza would come and stay in Pakistan with Wahab Jaffer, he would also travel frequently to Lahore by train, which is something that doesn't happen anymore very frequently. But what he did notice was there was always one mosque that he would see. And because as you're on the train, everything kind of goes to a slant, that's how he was depicting the mosque that he was able to see. Yeah. And through that, their friendship grew immensely. And Wahab actually has a lot of archival information and a lot of different pieces in where he's videotaping Souza while he's depicting one of his paintings. And again, it was just a friendship and an admiration that both of them had for each other. Sadiq Khan is probably one of the most important artists to come out of Pakistan. He has been labeled as the Picasso of Pakistan. And as you can see, there is a lot of Picasso influence in this canvas artwork. This artwork in particular is actually quite fun because there is another artist named Ismail Gulji who was originally from Pakistan, and he had this particular canvas work. So as you can see from the video, I'm not sure if you remember, but there's a photo of Ismail Gulji and Wahab Jaffer in their home. And when Wahab was visiting Gulji, he said, I really like this Sadikan artwork. Will you sell it to me? And Gulji said, no, 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 no. Sadikan gave this to me. It's a very important artwork. I'm not letting go of it. He said, okay, fine. Over the years, frequently and consistently, Wahab begged and begged and begged. And then finally, Gulji said, you know what? There is one painting of Sadikan's I like of yours. If you do a trade with me, I will do that for you. And that's how he ended up acquiring this artwork from Gulji. And then the second artwork, which is a portrait that is of Ali Imam, the man who really is the reason why all of these people connected, is a portrait that Sadikan had made on a hospital bed. He was there for serious liver damage at the time. And when Wahab talks about this portrait, he says that it was just them chatting about the good old days and how things were, going so smoothly and how much fun it all was. And while they were talking about Ali Imam, who they all saw as a, father figure, hence the title of the exhibition, he drew this artwork of him smoking a pipe, which was very regular to him. So as I mentioned, Ali Imam is really kind of the man who brought everyone together in this circle of friends. The whole exhibition and the point of it being called Father Figures, not only because the image that I had shown, this one, was titled Father Figure, but also all of these men, even though they were very much colleagues, they really considered themselves admirers and mentors to each other. And it created this little circle that they had put together. So Jaffer really does credit Ali Imam for everything that he's done through his artistic practice and his patronage throughout not only Pakistan, but South Asia as well, and further UK and America. So this artwork in particular is a portrait of the poet Faiz Ahmed Faiz, and it has a line of his poem Santas written on there, and it says, I've translated it into English, if they snatch my ink and pen, I should not complain, for I have dipped my fingers in the blood of my heart. I should not complain. And it's an image of him depicted in jail that Ali Imam had made. And so, of course, Ali Imam wanted to keep him to himself, but due to the consistency of Wahab asking for this artwork, he ended up gifting it to him. Now, Syed Haider Raza is an Indian artist who was born in India, but then in the 50s moved to France and then spent majority of his life over there, but eventually ended up coming back to India before his death in 2016. The funny thing is that due to all of the political kind of engagements that we all have in South Asia and not being able to really cross the borders as much as we want to due to partition and other government restrictions, it was much easier back in the day to actually travel back and forth from all of these countries. And it was in fact Syed Haider Raza who was brothers with Ali Imam. And I don't think that's a very well-known fact to many people, but it is a fact indeed. And this was an artwork that Syed Haider Raza had particularly made for his brother Ali Imam. Again, there is a quote written in Sanskrit, and I have translated into English to everyone, to say, let the path be unknown to you and me alone. And this was, again, something that Raza had gifted to his brother, and then eventually Imam had sold off to Wahab, and Wahab has very much kept it as a prize momentum because it is something that really speaks truly to him and talks about, the political entanglements that we have in South Asia. Now, Salima Hashmi is an amazing academic and professor. In my opinion, she is a bit of a matriarch of the modern and contemporary movement of Pakistani art. So she had curated an exhibition at Asia Society in New York called Hanging Fire back in 2009, which really brought the contemporary Pakistani art circle to a more global scale. What many people see her as a professor and an academic and a curator, but in fact, she was actually a very prolific artist as well and continues to be as such. This is a work that's called The Life and Time of, and it was part of a series done in the early 1980s against the backdrop of extreme repression during the regime of military dictator General Zia-ul-Haq. Women's rights were almost entirely abolished, and the edicts of obscenity took place from day-to-day basis. Hashmi chose to look at the female figure as a site of rebellion, as well as the embodiment of lyrical beauty and physical desire. She used newspaper clippings as a collage to frame the context of the work and juxtapose the microcosm of conflict in the country. Salima Hashmi also was very kind and gave me a quote in regards to this. And she said, "It must be mentioned that exhibiting such works was not without risk at the time. And I salute the late Ali Imam for the space his gallery provided in Karachi, as well as the Rohtas Gallery in Islamabad, which she eventually founded later on." The last work that I will be presenting is by Anwar Jalal Shamsa, and it's the Root series. Anwar Jalal Shamsa, again, was an artist that was originally from Pakistan, but spent a majority of his life in the UK. After Shamsa died, his wife, Mary Shamsa, decided to take the exhibition of the Root series, which is depicted here, to Pakistan as Anwar Jalal's dying wish. He had created this in regards to depicting his roots of Pakistan, and this was actually shown at Ali Imam's gallery in 1985. And this was later on then shown at the Pakistan National Council of Arts in Islamabad and the Peshawar Museum as well. So all of these artists really did join in together, and they spoke about not only the trials and tribulations that they had, but they were able to really speak about their roots and what it meant to be a Pakistani, not only within Pakistan, but outside of Pakistan. And then the one thing that I really loved going through this collection and speaking to Wahab Jaffer was looking at the microcosm of South Asian art history within the city of Karachi, where he was collecting most of these works. And Ali Imam was one of those people that was able to really showcase all of these amazing artists coming through. And it's through the arts and culture of that city that you were able to see so many transnational dialogues take place. And that is really all there is to the exhibition.
Thank you very much, Nour. That was fascinating for somebody who hasn't had any insight into this area of art in the past. We don't yet have any questions, but I'm going to start, if you don't mind, and keep things going. Again, as a layman, I'm afraid, with Pakistani contemporary art, could you say something about how influential are contemporary Pakistan artists or Pakistani artists who specialize in contemporary art on the younger generation of artists emerging from Pakistan?
Of course. So there are actually several contemporary artists that have done extraordinarily well over the past 2 decades. And it's thanks to the work of people like Mrs. Hashmi that have been able to do as such. So one artist would be Shazia Sikandar. She is, I believe she has a MacArthur Grant Award, and she has done many installations globally. And she's showcased at museums such as the MoMA, and she is quite prolific in what she does. Then there's also Imran Qureshi. He is another artist who has done extraordinarily well over the past few years. He actually was commissioned to do the Met Rooftop Garden back in, I think it was 2014 or 15. And again, another artist that has done extraordinarily well. There's also Rashid Rana, who was actually one of the first contemporary Pakistani artists who had shown at Venice Biennale in a more significant way. So it was him, an Indian artist named Shilpa Gupta, that had put together a pavilion back in, I think again, that was 2015. And then you also have artists like Waqas Khan, who has been doing extraordinarily well. Waqas Khan has shown at several different institutions around the world. He has also shown at Venice Biennale as well. And he also had a solo exhibition at a beautiful museum in Lyon, Spain, that happened, I believe it was 2 years ago. Thanks to COVID, I think timelines are a bit confusing nowadays. But there is a variety of amazing artists that are coming out of Pakistan. These are the more mature artists and global artists that I've shown you, but there are a lot of different galleries and spaces that are open in Karachi, Lahore, and all over Pakistan, where you can see really extraordinarily talented young artists coming through. And it's not just these big names who are showing at the MoMA and the Met and the Guggenheim or wherever else, but they're showing in a more kind of delicate way. There's an artist named Fazl Rizvi who I really admire. He's currently doing a residency in Amsterdam. And yeah, if you do a little bit of Googling, and I'm happy to share some links as well that I can, pass on if anyone has any interest in learning more about the contemporary artists of the region.
Yeah. Perhaps I'd like to ask someone else to come in for a question. Sunil Shastri, who is a long-term Asia Scotland Institute member.
Hi, can you hear me? Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
So my name is Sunil Muralidhar Shastri. I am an independent consultant in ocean and environmental governance based here in the UK. Thanks, Martin. Thanks, Nour, and thanks, Asif, for your philanthropy, and Nour for her presentation. I am as ignorant, or perhaps much more ignorant than Martin is, about this aspect of things. But my question is really quite rising out of that ignorance, that when I see this abstract art, I see a lot of Western influence in them. I mean, it's whether it's Picasso, whether it's somebody from Asia or somebody from, wherever, they paint a similar style. Now, talking about South Asia, is there a contemporary or modern style which one can say, yes, okay, this is South Asian,
So sorry, continue.
Yeah, my second question is, of course, going back to your previous career when you're with Bonhams, and how do you decide that a painting is worth whatever, like what I call as silly money? So whatever, like 100 million or 5 million or 2 million or 100,000, how does that happen? I know people have to be famous before they start making a lot of money, but even so, even if you're ultra famous, how do you distinguish between 100 million and 10 million, for example?
Both these questions are excellent, by the way. I'm going to start off with the first one, which is in regards to really what is South Asian art? That's the question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm from Pakistan, so I'm going to be a little bit biased. So that's kind of the country I know best. It's funny, I remember, because I studied the modern artists quite a bit, not only through my childhood, but in college and further on as well. And thanks to my job at Bonhams Auction House, really able to dive into that further. And what I did notice, it was the modern artists that were being influenced by the Western masters as well. So Pissarro, Picasso, Monet, Manet, there's so many different, like I think Jackson Pollock comes in there as well, and Rothko. And it was really because these artists those are the artists that they had to look over, and they were trying to go away from the Mughal miniature landscape that had been created by the ancestors of Pakistan at the time. For India, I'm not going to be able to tell you that much more. Actually, there's someone in the audience named Zara Jumaboy that's much better at this than I am. But I do know that the modern artists were kind of trying to get away from the Pakistani roots of miniature art, and that's how they ended up creating these works of art. And I believe it's a little bit the same for Indian artists as well. I actually remember having this conversation with an artist named Faiza Butt, who again is very well known in the UK and globally, and she studied at the National College of Arts, which was originally the Mayo School. And she studied miniature art, which several artists have done. And she said, because of our modern artists focusing so much on the Western masters, a lot of us wanted to go back to the tradition of miniature art. And that's where contemporary miniatures right now, there's a rise of that coming through. Well, maybe not so much a rise anymore, but in the 90s, there was quite a lot of it. And Shazia Sikandar is kind of the woman who led the flag with that. And she really broke the boundaries of the global art world in regards to the way she depicted contemporary miniatures through that lens. in regards to how artworks are valued. Now, this is a very technical and stringent thing to do. It took me years to do this, but it is something that's actually worthwhile knowing. So the whole landscape of what the art market is really isn't just the auction house, but it's the artists that are creating the work and the gallery system, and that's why the patrons are so important as well. So I know when people ask me in regards to what they would like to collect, just like Wahab, I say you should buy the works that you want to live with. But alas, not many people, like I said, art has now become a bit of a luxury investment. So when an artwork was brought into the auction house, a lot of the artists that we were looking at were the ones that had, I'm just going to focus on Pakistan right now, just to make it a bit more consistent. A lot of the artists who had shown internationally, who had been displayed globally, and who were wildly prolific. So the artist Sadikan that I spoke about was one of those people. He had shown at, the Paris Biennale back in 1967. He had shown his work in Saudi Arabia and in India and really all around the world. And then Bashir Mirza as well. He was based in Holland for a little bit. He was based in Australia for a little bit. And again, a very prolific artist. So whereas back in, let's say 2000, you would have an artwork by Sadikan at Sotheby's or Christie's or Bonhams valued at maybe £1,000, and right now I'm being generous, maybe £1,000 to £2,000. It depends on who wants it and how the value is going to go up higher and higher. So let's say in 2000, this work that was valued at £1,000 to £2,000 was then later on sold for £5,000. Then okay, the next time we get it, because we know that there's an audience for this, will go a little bit higher and higher. I think the last artwork of Sadikan's that sold at Bonham's auction house was about £200,000. Yeah. And the Indian artist, so Syed Haider Raza, I believe he is the highest selling artist in India at this point in time right now. And I believe he sold for $4.3 million as such. Don't rely on me for that number. I'm going off my head right now, but I do know that Christie's were the ones who sold that artwork. So if I get that number, I will definitely send it around to everyone. But really, it's a technique, and it's in regards to what people want to show and what people want to see. But if the whole ecosystem doesn't work, so if the artist is not creating, if the galleries aren't showing, which is the primary place to show, and then later on, if the auction houses are not picking up, it really doesn't work. But realistically, you need the patrons to be buying this as well. That's why if you are looking to collect, and if you are looking to build a collection, focus on the emerging artists, just like Wahab did, because you know what? Now they're regarded as masters in their day. So that's really what you have to do. And always buy what you like. Don't go off of anything else. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Very enlightening. Thank you.
Sunil, now is the time to start your collection, I think.
You can see the blank wall behind me.
Yes. No, I hope you will. No, we have more compliments than questions, I think.
Oh dear.
I won't read out the compliments, but there are very many saying, thank you very much for such a wonderful presentation. But there are several, and perhaps I could just package several of them together. Asif has asked, Nour, can you tell us more about British Pakistani artists and the scene in the UK? But perhaps I'll just ask that one first, because the next questions are slightly different.
Yeah, there are. So British Pakistani artists are quite a few of them. And right now they're working quite hard in regards to creating kind of an atmosphere for themselves. Because I believe the BAM community has been one that's really kind of suffered throughout, not only COVID, but throughout history in the UK. So actually it was an artist who I absolutely adore named Rashid Arain, who had an exhibition at the Hayward Gallery back in 1989 called The Other Story. And it was specifically for artists from South Asia, the Caribbean, and from Africa who were based in the UK. And this exhibition took about 11 to 12 years to actually get finalized. And it has people that you would know very well in the art world now, like Eddie Chambers and Mona Hatoum, and Anwar Jalal Shamsa was also a major part of that. In fact, I believe he was it was his artwork that was the cover of the catalog. So nowadays, there are quite a lot of British Pakistani artists that are doing a lot of good work. There is artist named Shahzad Dawood, who has been very prolific in regards to what he has been creating. In fact, he also had a solo exhibition at Venice Biennale a few years ago, and he's shown at Parasol Udent. He's also a major part of the global arena in that regard as well. There's actually a wonderful gallery based in Deptford named Indigo Plus Matter, and they really truly try and show the not only British Pakistani artists, but South Asian British artists based in the UK and highlight the work that they're doing as well. So I'm happy to, again, write down the name for everyone to view, and it's worthwhile looking at their website and seeing the works that are being created by these wonderful young artists.
You have an extraordinary breadth of knowledge and depth of knowledge going across.
I'm just trying to remember names. It's not that easy.
It's very good. But actually, there's a slight follow-up question, if I may, that just came in after you started from Amir. Without asking you to list names again, but Amir has said, who are the young contemporary Pakistani artists who, in your opinion, are displaying the social and cultural landscape of Pakistan? I think a slightly different approach, if that's not too specific.
No, it's actually perfectly fine. The funny thing is that there's so many different artists that are doing a wonderful job at that. There's Hira Nabi, who is doing an excellent job in regards to that. She actually has been just awarded an amazing generational award, I think from Prince Klaus. She's a video installation artist and definitely worthwhile looking at. There's also Salman Tour, who has done exceptionally well. He's based between Pakistan and New York, and in fact has a solo exhibition at the Whitney Museum of Art right now in New York. And he does actually beautiful canvas works that showcase what life and culture really is in Pakistan, not just what we see in the media, which is quite nice. You know, it's not just blood and bullets all over the place. There's quite a lot of partying going on there as well, so it's nice to look at. There's also Abdullah Qureshi, who is a beautiful abstraction artist who is doing phenomenal work as well in regards to talking about the different communities within Pakistan that are somewhat neglected and segregated. There are quite a lot of artists doing this work. I'm just trying to think of some more.
Without sort of trying to ask you to list the name of every artist you've come across, perhaps just to nuance that question a little further, if we could. Nandini has asked about women artists from Pakistan, as well as women artists, the networking between women artists in Pakistan and India. Could you say something about that?
Yeah, so the funny thing is, when I was calling the exhibition Father Figure, I was getting a little annoyed with that because, you know, there's a big emphasis on the male artists, but realistically, it's the women artists that quite a bit as well. First of all, there's Salima Hashmi, who really, I mean, I'm talking about her very highly because it's very true. If it weren't for her, I don't think Pakistani art would be shown in such a global scale, realistically. There's also, I'm going to talk about the moderns and then I'll go to the contemporary. There is an artist named Zubaida Agha, who academic writer Iftikhar Dadi listed her as probably the first modern artist of Pakistan, and just the way she was depicting abstraction and what she was doing was probably at a higher scale than what the men were doing at the time. In regards to contemporary artists, goodness me, there are many, many of them. One is Hamra Abbas, who does beautiful inlay work. And actually, she just had a solo mid-career retrospective at the Como Museum in Lahore, which was, she looked at not only the architectural landscape of the old Mughal buildings and institutions made in Pakistan, but she also looked at the different communities, such as the transgender community within Pakistan and further, you know, South Asia and Southeast Asia, which is truly stunning. And she also does a lot of work with color and what color really means in regards to, you know, if you mix every shade together, it turns black. So the exhibition was called Every Shade is Black, which was wonderful. There's Bani Abadi, who's based in Berlin, but very much a Pakistani artist who, again, works with the idea of what communities are and what, you know, the social aspect is within Pakistan. I mentioned Hira Nabi. I strongly suggest looking at her work as well. There is Warda Shabir, who was actually nominated for the Jameel Prize back in, I believe it was 2017, which is a large Islamic art prize, kind of the Turner Prize of the Islamic world. And she does these beautiful abstract miniature works that's a little bit surrealist, so that's quite fun to look at. Oh my goodness, there's so many women artists. I'm just trying to, again, to think of a list of, but I have to say, I am really impressed with the female artists of Pakistan and what they are creating. And there are a lot of different galleries within the country that are focusing on the female perspective and what they are putting out. So I would definitely take a look into that. And I'm happy to share links and names with everyone who's part of the talk.
Perhaps following, I think there are more questions sort of following on from that. So sorry to stay on the same theme, but they do sort of flow. And I was going to ask you what comes next. Obviously, this huge range of artists that most of us wouldn't have any insight into. What comes next from the Rangoonwala Foundation and the British Pakistan Foundation? And that sort of relates to a question from Amir and Mariam, I think. Both asking about the foundation's plans to exhibit female modernist artists, and you know, where might your two foundations that you're involved in go next with this?
I'm sorry, I saw a note pop up and I can't believe I forgot this. Naiza Khan. Naiza Khan is a very important artist that's based over here, and she is actually the first official Pakistani artist to have been shown at the Venice Biennale. I believe that was a year or two ago, and that was curated by Zara Khan, who is the director and founder of Art Divi. Actually, Zara has put together a wonderful series of talks on her Instagram account that I strongly recommend everyone viewing, because all of the artists that I've spoken about and all of the people who are working really diligently in regards to what they're creating, she's actually had a chance to interview all those people. So I would really, if you're interested in this, I would take a chance and look over at what she's doing. In regards to Martin, what you just said, BPF, we are hoping that BPF will start working more with the arts and culture and promoting British Pakistani artists as well. In regards to what Mr. Rangoonwala and I are working on, we were hoping to talk about how we can create these transnational dialogues, because as I was working on this exhibition, I was having many discussions with Mr. Rangoonwala and realized that there are so many connections between these, not only these three countries of India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, but also Nepal and Sri Lanka. And really, how do we connect them? What is a way to connect them to the arts and culture? Because already just looking at this one single owner collection, I was able to see so many integrations within what was happening between these nations. But due to the political environment, it's not really that easy for us to travel back and forth from there. But then there's also, thanks to the ZVM Rangoonwala mission, it's in regards to creating sustainability as well. So we're hoping, and we are working on a project that will help not only the artists, but the art professionals within these countries to help just to create some sustainability within their developments and what they're working on as individuals, but also really have these important transnational dialogues that will just unite and create just a bigger whole of South Asia together.
It sounds as if the Pakistani diaspora is perhaps more important than those in Pakistan at the moment to build those bridges through arts and culture.
I think it is. The British Pakistani artists that I have spoken to, they are very intrigued in regards to what is happening within the countries that they originate from, whether they're from Bangladesh or India, Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka. They may have been born and raised here, but they want to have some connection with the home that their mothers and fathers come from, and sometimes even their grandparents come from. And I think it's very important to take that initiative and learn more about your heritage and culture. Yeah.
I think we can take any more questions if anyone else would like to raise a hand on the Zoom or put something in the chat. I think it would be the last chance. Anything else? You've been for an extraordinary list of artists, which I hope everyone was taking notes How about from British Pakistan Foundation or Rangoonwala Foundation? And any more closing comments from Saima and Salman? Oh, sorry, Amir. I just noticed. Thank you very much, Amir, for navigating Zoom. Would you like to come on and ask a question?
I would love to. And first of all, I must thank you all, Martin and Nour and Mr. Rangoonwala, for putting this this event together. And it literally I just saw it, I saw it as unplanned. I was just going through my emails and it came up. And here I am on my lunchtime while working from home. But it's really very informative. And what I would like to comment on is we see a lot of young Pakistani contemporary artists, both from Lahore, Karachi, Islamabad, who are doing some really good work. And how can we help to promote them in the UK and maybe in Europe? And I'm talking of the younger lot who are literally coming out of our schools and doing some really good, very expressive work, one. And the second thing is you brought up Rangoonwala. I used to live in Karachi at the time. You know of the Rangoonwala Art Gallery. But there used to be an artist called Miss Rafat Alvi. We lost contact with her. She used to be a very good close family friend, but her work was amazing because she used to paint with clay and bring clay from different countries and then use them to express her art. So if you have any whereabouts of her, please do share them with us. Thank you.
I will message you separately about this, but Ms. Griffith is still very much a part of the VM Art Gallery family. She is the director of the whole thing. So VM Art Gallery was founded in 1987 thanks to Mr. Asif Rangoonwala, and it has been showcasing works of emerging artists from Pakistan and worldwide for educational purposes for the past 33 years, and it really is an extremely wonderful institution. They have an excellent exhibition that they do annually called the Emerging Arts Show, and that is to showcase all of the emerging artists that are coming, well, not all of them, but all of the emerging artists that they have selected, showcased every year. And these are young students just coming out of fresh, just fresh out of their thesis shows, which is really great. In regards to, sorry, your first question was,
my first question is about how to promote the Pakistani contemporary artists in UK, and we are more than happy to. We are based in the UK. Me and my wife collect Pakistani art. We support all sorts of art, not just Pakistani art, but people like Parvez Rana and people like Sohail Ali and Rashid Rana. You mentioned Mashkoor Raza. We love people like those. They're really fantastic artists, but the really young lot coming out, as in, who are literally coming out of arts, I'm saying medical school because I'm a doctor. I mean from art school and doing some really expressive work.
So I would, for people who are wanting to promote the arts of Pakistan within the UK, it's art professionals. So that's what I was talking about before. It's really the art galleries that need to be showcasing the work. So if you are going to different art galleries around the UK, I strongly recommend going to Indigo Plus Matter. They have a beautiful program and they really do showcase a lot of wonderful artists, not only from the UK diaspora, but from South Asia as well. It really is up to the gallery system to be showcasing these artists. So if you ever go to a gallery and you say to them, why aren't there any South Asian artists? Maybe they'll start looking for South Asian artists. Yeah. If people start buying them, then 100% they will put them on their program. So I would just recommend going to galleries, seeing what's around. And also, I know this is horrible, but social media is a great tool for all of that. So it's definitely worthwhile looking at different accounts on Instagram that you can see, which artists are coming around and where they're showcasing. And another exhibition that's, not just for South Asian artists, but the Jameel Art Prize that happens every 2 years. There's always a Pakistani artist that's going to be a part of that, and that's showcased at the V&A. I would suggest looking at that as well when the time comes. So really just, I would do just a little bit of Googling and going on Instagram to see what kind of contemporary artists you can look at. But I do know that Indigo Plus Matter are very much a part of that little circle that are showcasing these artists.
Fantastic. That is so useful to know. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Well, I think you've done some good today by connecting people who haven't been in touch for quite some time. So that's a very nice piece of goodness to spread. And on that note, I really must thank you.
Hi, Martin. Can I just take a short moment to thank everyone for joining us? I'm from the BPF, and I just want to request everyone here, if they have any ideas about art and culture which they feel related to Pakistan and the British Pakistani society, which they want to know more about. This is our first initiative in the arts and culture field, and we want to go further and explore areas where our patrons and the diaspora of Pakistan can collaborate and be a part of. So if you have any areas where you'd like to know more about, send us an email at info@bpfuk.org. And we'll take that into account and perhaps have a few shows or have another webinar which is on upcoming Pakistani artists who are based here in the UK, and maybe have a spotlight on certain artists which you would like to see.
Yes, and I'd also like to mention that if anyone would like the catalog for this, which includes Rifat Alvi's work, by the way, I am very happy to have them mailed out. So if you contact the Asia Scotland Institution or the British Pakistani Foundation, I'm sure we can arrange that for you.
Before thanking you, no, I think I should thank British Pakistan Foundation and also Rangoonwala Foundation for really making the effort to stage this and allowing us to join with you to stage this. But obviously, most thanks to Nour for talking so much with such great depth and breadth and insight, which is extraordinary. And I do hope you're going to come to Scotland when times are better. And,
fingers crossed, I will.
And help with spreading the information about Pakistani contemporary art in Scotland as well, where I think it'll be very well received. So thank you very much. It really is a really insightful 1 hour that's gone rather too quickly, I think. We'll leave it at that, but please follow up. Anyone has any questions, would like to contact Nour, please come to us at Asia Scotland Institute or to Salman and his colleagues at British Pakistani Foundation, and we'll make the introductions. Thank you very much, Nour, for your time.
Thank you to everyone for joining, and thank you to ASI and BPF for organizing this wonderful talk.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good afternoon, and I hope you're not snowed in. Take care.